As a Christian female in the fitness industry, I've seen so many women frustrated as they search for transformation through diets and exercise alone. And what I've realized is that God's Word, the most important part of this life for a Christian, seems to be the portion that's always missing from what we're being taught about being fit and healthy. Courageous Fit Female is a podcast for women who love Jesus and want to get fit and healthy His way. Want to seek His truth versus what the world says? Then let's get into today's show. We are back with another episode. Welcome. It is Jaclyn Castro here. And if you find yourself stepping on the scale to check your weight, to check if did I gain 1 pound, did I lose 1 pound, am I getting closer to my goal? And you don't just check it once a day or twice a day, but I'm talking about like multiple times a day. And it's really setting you up for feeling like you're in this trap, and it's not bringing you closer to food freedom, but it's bringing you away from God, and you're feeling like you're just stuck and you don't know what else to do, and you feel like you're putting your hope in that device, in the scale, then this is the episode that you want to be on. And I just want to start out by saying that I used to substitute other things to gauge where I'm at in place of the scale. So for example, you may have heard, if you want to gauge where you are at today in regards to, are you improving, are you getting closer to your goal, then you are probably told to, instead of the scale, you can gauge your goals, whether you're getting closer to it or not, by how your clothes fit, or maybe using a measuring tape, or maybe seeing how your energy levels are. And those are all good things as well. But even at that, like if you are finding that you are, again, trapped in another device with measuring tapes and whatever it is that you're using to gauge where you're at, maybe your cravings, your urges, your appetites, whatever it is, let's admit it's really easy to fall into putting your hope into these little devices. And that's why if you find yourself always going to these little devices, it's probably an indication that you should break up with it. You should break up with the scale or the measuring tape, or maybe you have one go-to genes that will determine if you are getting better, if you're moving further or closer to your goal. And I'll just tell you that multiple times a day, checking your weight multiple times a day, like I don't know about you, but for me, like if I ever find myself constantly logging onto social media to check what notifications I have, to check what messages I need to clear, that constant checking of maybe even my email. I mean, the fact that I continually pick up my phone to check whether or not someone contacted me, if they emailed me, it can get pretty frustrating as it adds up throughout the day, because I know I could be doing something else better. I can use my time better instead of picking up my phone, constantly checking it. And it kind of reminds me of this sugar fast that I joined, a 40-day sugar fast sometime, I think in 2018 of November. And that sugar fast, participating in it every single day for 40 days, it truly was an eye-opener. But I remember that during that sugar fast, I would constantly find myself opening the fridge to check if there was something to snack on. And I did that for the most part of maybe the first 2 weeks of, maybe even the first 3 weeks of the sugar fast. So what is that? 21 days? So that was half of the time. I was constantly opening the fridge, and I remember it started to feel really frustrating and annoying, and I felt sort of lost because of my preoccupation with thoughts that I was fixed on food. Like I still wanted to eat. It's like I knew that I was fasting, but yet I was searching for food. It was just this unexplainable, frustrating feeling, and I just wanted it to be taken away. And if you're struggling to overcome the stronghold of food in your life and how it is overtaking your headspace because all you can think about is food, well, then the number on the scale is most likely something that your mind is fixed on too. And the reality is this, it's that if this is you, then you know that you are more prone and more apt to be in this constant comparison with other people, with other women specifically. And you feel this discontent and you become moody and grouchy because your mind is constantly fixed on that one thing. And you find that it sucks your focus and your energy and time from assignments and tasks and roles that God is giving you. And that is to know Him. That's what He wants for you. He wants you to know Him and to trust Him more, which you know you need, because when you are focused on the horizontal, everything down here on earth, you are fixed on the temporary things here. And we were taught and shaped by society that success is what others can see. So if you can't see a successful, quote unquote, 3-digit number on the scale, then it feels like your world is going to flip upside down. But don't we forget that our weight is not what defines us? And as A.W. Tozer said, quote, what comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us, close quote. And the hard question for some of you is, are you even thinking about God? Like, did you ever approach God to ask Him what He even thinks about what you should weigh? And I want you to think about that for a moment, because God could care less about what you weigh. There's nowhere in Scripture that says anything about your weight being a part of God's will. Now, okay, unless you're maybe joining the military or you're joining some type of organization or something that requires you to be at a specific weight, then yes, I totally get that you need to gauge your weight and you need to reach that specific number on the scale so that you can get in. Granted, you did pray and God is leading you toward that as well. So that's another thing too, right? But when He was choosing you, when He saved you and He wrote your name in the book of life because you gave your life to Him, He did not determine that based on your weight. And as a matter of fact, when He was choosing who He was going to use to slay the giant Philistine warrior Goliath, He didn't base who was going to do that based on appearance or his physical stature. For the Lord does not see as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:17. So ladies, this is an indicator that you need to break up with the scale. For one, it doesn't bring you closer to food freedom. It's trapping you. So here's what I do, and I'm passing this along to you. If you find yourself, again, struggling to stop stepping on the scale, if you constantly go to the scale, then here's what to do instead. Be salt. Do not conform. And be unapologetic to share the good news about Jesus' saving grace and salvation and how we need a Savior who is perfect, who said it is finished, and how God sent His Son, Jesus, to take the punishment for our filthy sins and to tell people that their good works are not enough to save them from eternal death and separation from a holy, holy God. What am I saying? What are you saying, Jaclyn? You're saying don't check my weight, I should go and share the gospel? Well, what I'm saying is to do His will. What is His will for us? Those of us who say we are Christian, who received salvation and who is now a new creature in Christ, us Jesus lovers, if you have placed your entire faith and trust in Jesus to redeem you from your sins, past, present, and future, because you know that He is the way, the truth, and the life, then I'm speaking to you. You are a daughter of the Most High, and He has a plan for you, and roles, and tasks, and responsibilities. And one of your and my responsibility is to do His will. Be salt to a culture who is bland without Jesus. He says to not conform to the patterns of this world and be unapologetic to serve and share the gospel. God tells us in the last verse of chapter 9, so open your Bibles and check this out yourself in the book of Luke, verse 62. It is the last verse in chapter 9. Verse 62 says, "But Jesus said to him, 'No one, having but his hand to the plow and looking back, is fit for the kingdom.'" So what it's saying is that if you are focused, like imagine yourself on a farm, on a tractor, and your assignment is to plow straight ahead. Now, if you were to turn and look back behind you, that tractor is going to go off course. It's going to veer off track, and it's not going to be going straight any longer. So in other words, fix your eyes on Jesus. Stay on the path that He has for you. Don't look back. Look forward. Keep going and being and doing exactly what God is telling you to do. You're never going to do it perfect, but focus and be intentional about going forward and doing what God says. Again, you're not going to know what He tells you to do unless you open the Word. So doing that, okay, fixing your eyes on what He wants for you, not on what you want for you, but focusing intentionally on what steps God wants you to take next. That is His will. And however He wants you to walk that out, you won't be alone because He's already ahead of you. Amen. He's prepared a way. But putting your hope in a number on the scale instead of who you declare to be your number one in your life is not His will. If anything, it is a stumbling block. That's what I look at when I look at the scale. I think of the scale as a stumbling block. And what is happening is when you're not stepping on the scale, you're fixed on what food or beverage can I try to avoid today because I want to see a smaller number on the scale. And so you're basically keeping yourself stuck in this vicious cycle of, I can't eat this, or I can't go to that get together. I can't hang out with my family for fear of putting on weight because of what they might be serving on the table. And I know that feeling all too well. Food is my weakness. But this is how you get and you stay caught up in food idolatry and don't get to experience food freedom. So if you do want to experience food freedom, then break up with your scale. Now, I'm not telling you what to do. Pray about it. Everyone's going to have a different conviction, but this may be for you. The scale is a device that you can use to gauge where you are, maybe a couple times a year, maybe just when you go to your annual physical. Did you hear that? Let me say that again. The scale is a device that you can use to gauge where you are, maybe a couple of times a year. Now flip to your Bibles to the second book of Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 11, where it says, "Lest Satan should take advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices." Where it says devices, some translations say schemes or sly ways. So Satan is sly, he is slick, he is the trickster of all tricksters, he is the king of deception, and he can use your scale as a stumbling block. And basically what he wants is for you to put all your hope in that scale and to put use the how much you weigh as what defines you. Did you ever wonder why or how Satan can be using the scale, this device, as one of his devices, his schemes, to keep you away from God? Now think about that and pray about it. I really urge you to pray about this, because this is not the way God wants you to spend life on this side of heaven. He wants us on his lighted path, so we're able to run after what matters. And what matters is not our weight, not being in a state of, I will do whatever it takes to reach my personal achievements. Because this is the part where I'm hoping you can see through spiritual eyes, ladies, how essential it is to consume, to read, to meditate, to live, to breathe God's word. Read his scripture, turn the pages of the Bible, and ask God to help you with the weak state that you're in, because we are weak, but he is strong. And ask God to help you with the weak state that you are in, physically, spiritually, mentally. And that's exactly why you need Jesus. He will deliver you and meet you wherever you are. So my question of the day is, are you sick of the scale getting in the way of doing and being what Jesus wants you to do and be, right? Because it's not always about doing. It's about being and trusting. I know I was so done with the scale, so I broke up with it. And I would tell you to gauge in other ways, like what I mentioned in the beginning of this episode with your energy levels and a measuring tape or whatever it is. But personally, it's not something that I track intentionally. Like, I don't actually put on a specific pair of jeans to gauge how it feels. Because what I have to say about that in my experience is that you will know. Your insides will already give you the red flags. Your thoughts, what you can't see, right? But your thoughts will allow you to feel certain ways. So your thoughts can be the indicator of whether or not you're on the right track or the wrong track. And for sure, your heart. What is the motive for trying to achieve a specific weight? Always going back to doing a heart check. Because if we are so fixed on trying to achieve a specific weight, we need to ask ourselves why. What are we doing a heart check? Are we going to God for this? And this is not what the culture is going to tell you. They're just going to tell you, do whatever it takes to reach your goals. Isn't it so awesome, though, that we have been given the greatest weapon of all, the Holy Spirit? He is the one who will direct you, just like a compass or a GPS. There's only one way, one direction, one path that we should be on. And that's wherever He tells you to go. But the Holy Spirit tells you where not to go as well. So we need to be mindful of that. You're going to know what is off if you're going further away from God. You're going to know if you're being disobedient and if you're doing what is popular because it's going to gain the applause from the world instead of what gives honor to Jesus. When you are led by the Spirit, you're going to know if you are going with the world or with the Holy Spirit. It's just what it is. It's just this unexplainable, beautiful thing that we get when we give our lives to Christ. You will just know. And for me, I knew that I had to break up with the scale because it made me so consumed with what my earthly guide, my nutrition coach, no offense to my nutrition coach. It's great to know the things that I was taught, but I was also following my fleshly guide in where it was taking me. And where it was taking me was towards personal achievements and selfish accomplishments and leaning on my own understanding. And I was walking right back towards the place that I said goodbye to before Christ came into my life. I was all about body idolatry. Now, maybe this may or may not describe some of you. Maybe this is just my own personal conviction. But one thing I do know is this, is that when we are guided by our own control, our own insight, and our own intelligence versus God's own understanding, and many times, let's be real, it doesn't make sense, right? His understanding doesn't make sense. But He always rewards us in His own way. And it always lands us exactly where He wants us at the perfect time and the perfect season and in the most awesome way. The most awesomest part too is that we get to give Him the glory. We don't take any credit for it, and we shouldn't, and we can't, because it's not us. It's Him. It's Him that did everything. It's Him that placed us where He needed us to be. So those of you who are tuned in, are you sick of stepping onto the scale? That again is my question of the day. And just like I was so sick of checking my notifications for Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and email. So what did I do? What did I do about it? I didn't just stay sick of it. Guess what I did? I deleted it. I deleted the apps. And these apps are no longer on my phone because I was a slave to it. It was mastering me and my time and everything in my life that the Lord assigned for me to do. My face was in the phone when I was with my son and he wanted my attention, and I was snapping pictures at the dinner table of food that I wanted to post on Instagram instead of having conversations with my family. Embarrassing to admit, but that's the reality, right? And we're so distracted. And the scale, maybe you didn't think about it, but maybe it could be a distraction from what truly matters. And the Bible, we know God's instructions, His word tells us to flee from idolatry, 1 Corinthians 10:14. So ladies, I want you to prepare your heart, prepare your mind, and know that when you break up with the scale, it should ultimately bring you closer to God, to trust Him more. Because you go to Him, not the scale, right, to define your worth. And it's maybe challenging for you in the beginning. It will be challenging for you in the beginning, especially if you can admit that you're addicted to like constantly checking, just like you check your Instagram. Is that an idol too? That can be a totally different episode. But it's going to be challenging for you in the beginning. But you will reap kingdom rewards, and God will be so pleased, so pleased. And you will also not be tied to food as much. You're going to be able to experience food freedom. You'll be closer to that point where you can say you have food freedom when you keep choosing God over short-term satisfaction and addictions and idolatry like the scale. We need to keep going to Jesus, reading and doing and being what he wants us to be, and do what is countercultural, not what is popular, not what's going to gain likes, not what's going to gain the applause of the world. And that is to have faith in what we cannot see. Because you won't see it in any number on the scale. That's not where you're going to see success. You're going to see it in a different way that God chooses to bless you with, as long as you stay fruitful and faithful and trust him. Now, just as a reminder, ladies, I do have a few open spots for my Faith and Food Freedom Foundation coaching. This is exactly the stuff that we dig into so that I can help you to get closer and closer to food freedom, and we do it God's way with his word. And I would love to have you on the coaching program. I would love to hold your hand and bring you along the way, to bring you out of that black hole that you feel that you're in. And we walk through your personal strongholds and discover what to do according to what God wants for you. It is custom built. It is not cookie cutter, because every single one of you ladies that come to me come from a totally different background, a totally different experience. Every single one of you come to me on a different level. So I only have a couple of spots open. Email me, Jaclyn@courageousfitfemale.com. That's Jaclyn. And in the subject line, all you do is just type in Faith and Food Freedom Foundations. Let me know that you're interested in your message, and I'll get you all the information you need. If you need to break up with your scale, if you need to get closer to food freedom, whatever it is for you, let's get started. It is already the year 2021. It is a brand new year, but we have the same God. And that is the same God that is going to be on this journey for you as you discover how to have food freedom the faith-led way. And so I hope you ladies were blessed again with this episode. Do me a favor and click subscribe, and definitely share this with someone that came to mind, because when I was going through struggles with food and fitness and all the things, I had no idea where to go. I was listening to all these different gurus out there with how to get better and how to feel better. And everything always was directed to how to look better on the outside, the physical. But we need to start from the inside out. Everything that we encounter that is a stronghold, an addiction, a doubt, a fear, there is a spiritual issue happening deeper inside. So share this with someone. If you have not left a review, I would love it if you took a minute just to let me know what you think about these episodes, what you think about this podcast. Give me your true, honest feedback. If you are on social media, feel free to share this. It really helps Courageous Fit Female to get out there and help other women who are struggling to get fit. And if they don't know the true meaning of fitness, it's not just physical, but it's also spiritual as well, ladies. They need to know. We need to get God's word out there. And this is the mission that God has equipped me for and has called me to share with other women. It would be such a great blessing, not to just me, but ultimately to the Lord, because he gets all the glory. And I want to continue to do that. I want to continue to shine his light and give God all the glory for where he has brought me today. So thank you so much for listening, ladies. I will see you on the next episode, where we're going to talk about uncovering shortcuts to quote unquote the perfect body image. And we're going to want to come back for that. So until next time, for his honor and for his glory, ladies, stay courageous and fit.